I'd say I started with BrightSign with a very clear mission that I wanted to create technology with impact.
Dr. Hadeel Ayoub is a multi-patent innovator, award-winning founder and CEO behind Fiddly and BrightSign, two groundbreaking technologies reshaping communication, accessibility, and the future of assistive hardware. Her work bridges AI, human behavior, and real-world problem-solving for people and businesses worldwide.
What was the spark for Fiddly and BrightSign? And was it a research insight, a lived experience, or something else?
Then I was selected to represent my university at IBM Hackathon in Seoul. And they said they wanted to use artificial intelligence for social care. And so I thought, okay, hand sign language, let me see if I can for this competition. And so I tried different signs and I kind of developed this algorithm that can recognize them, and it worked. I did win that competition and it made global headlines. And then I started getting emails from parents saying, I need this for my son. It made it very clear for me that 100% this is what I want to do.
In this episode, we dive deep into innovation, entrepreneurship, and how a single mission grew into a global impact.
You give one person a voice, and it felt so powerful and amazing at the same time.
Hey everyone, on today's show we have Dr. Hadeel Ayoub. She is the founder and CEO of Fiddly and BrightSign, an intelligent platform that helps schools make faster, better decisions when it comes to behavioral insights, safeguarding, and student development. She's an award-winning innovator, a multi-patent holder, and a TEDx speaker. And she's on a mission to bring clarity and proactivity into the chaos of school systems. Dr. Hadeel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start off from the beginning, right? What was the spark for Fiddly and BrightSign? And was it a research insight, a lived experience, or something else?
Yeah, so I'd say I started with BrightSign with a very clear mission that I wanted to create technology with impact. And I was always fascinated with translating things from the physical world to the digital world. And so I focused on hands and how can I use my hands to manipulate things in the digital world. Then I was selected to represent my university at IBM Hackathon in Seoul. And they said they wanted to use artificial intelligence for social care. And I was already developing this tech to translate hand movements into controlling things. And so I thought, okay, hand sign language, let me see if I can, for this competition, recognize hand gestures, create a communication tool using gestures or something like sign language, but made up. And so I tried different signs and I kind of developed this algorithm that can recognize them, and it worked. And every time I used my hands, the system spoke and said what I was trying to communicate. I did win that competition and it made global headlines. Obviously, IBM did invest in PR and I got all of their free promotion. And I went back to school thinking, okay, cool, let me now go back to my, creating virtual environments and gaming and interaction. And then I started getting emails from parents saying, I need this for my son. He's nonverbal and he's just started to learn sign language, but he's completely isolated. This would help him integrate. And then some of the councils here also talked to me and said, we're actually funding the development of technology to help integrate students into mainstream classrooms. Can we fund this? So I had to literally switch gears. It took one night to think about it because it meant that I had to stop the research I was doing in, the physical world and actually focus everything on translating sign language or creating gestural libraries for communication. First day, I tested the tech in schools with children, just made it very clear for me that 100% this is what I want to do. Because you give one person a voice that he wasn't able to communicate, whether what haircut he wants himself without someone saying that for him, or making a friend without having to drag someone to translate for you. It's just independence, right? And it felt so powerful and amazing at the same time. And so I thought, okay, I'm doing this for research. It's time to actually pursue it as a career. And so I started thinking about how to become switch hats, academic to entrepreneur, had to learn a lot of things from scratch, like running a business, financials, all the things I don't know about when you're living in the lab, right? That's really how I went into the business world. I never thought I would be a CEO, CTO, all of that. It's not really about that. It's just really about driving that vision, getting it to, or in the hands of the people who need it most. And then once you see that impact, everything falls into place, I think. And that's really how it started.
Let's talk about the impact it's having on children.
Right. So basically, actually have it with me.
Oh, you have it with you. Excellent.
Yes. called BrightSign because it's
Mhm.
bright and it smarts and it learns from you. A lot of people think that it translates sign language. Doesn't. You have to teach it your own sign. So basically, it is an empty dictionary. It comes with no signs at all. And all it does, it kind of records what your hand is doing. There's sensors embedded in here. There's a couple of sensors in there. Now, when you move your hand around, you can then tell the system, hey, this sign means this. And now slowly you've got your library of gestures that are custom to you, whether you're using a specific sign language library or one that the school uses, or sometimes people can't actually move their hands fully. Some people don't have all of their fingers. There is no one size fits all when it comes to technology for some groups.
Hello, my name is Hadeel. This glove translates my signs into speech.
So this is exactly what it does. And if I want to use it to ask for something, for example,
Can I have coffee, please?
I can also change. So it comes with an app like this, right? And it transcribes everything that I'm signing. Because if I can't hear, I want to make sure that people are actually receiving what I'm trying to say. I just asked for coffee in the UK, but if I'm in France, I can also do the same thing and it will just translate it to a different language. I'm also able to record audio clips and map them to my signs. For example, 1 second, it's to be in English. So I map this to good morning. So every time I do good morning, it will. The final bit of this that we only did later on when people requested it is actually mapping signs to control other things. So I can then use a sign and say, turn the lights on, or use a sign to control a remote car game. Or if I'm on a wheelchair, I can use my hands and map different signs to say forward, backwards, top, right, left. And so just plugging in that into any other system you have became actually now version 2 of the glove, which is remote control gesture, which is for performance, interaction, controlling the lights on stage, the volume of the music, interacting with the audience or with art or with projections, which is a whole other world. I feel like that's the magic about technology, right? Because the tech is there, but how you use it really depends on what you need. And you can really have a lot of fun with that.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing. I mean, it gives it increases the level of communication for someone who really needs it, and also they adapt it to their own, I would say, their language, right? So
Yeah.
they're creating their own personal language, but it can be accepted globally. And how's the kind of acceptance rate? Is it in the UK or just anywhere right now?
So with BrightSign, when we first launched it, we only did collaborations with councils and schools and assistive technology platforms. So those are like SendMac, for example. There'll be a platform that have all of the different technologies that students need in school for different conditions. And we were part of that library of products. And so students come and they'll match them with the best tech. So we didn't really launch it as a consumer product. We really only collaborated with schools and matches, and we did a lot of trials and we were fine. Then we started getting a lot of requests from outside of the school's community to do it for sing-alongs and Christmas carols from in different countries and different languages. And we're like, maybe we should just try to open a shop on the website and with gloves sell some accessories like speakers and like these kind of charms and everything that goes with it, whether it's adapters or cases and stuff. And we just did it as a test and we put 100 units out there. Those were sold out within the month.
Wow.
Yeah, and we got stuff like orders from countries that we don't even know how they heard about us, like Chile and, Brazil and South America. Where else? Guinea, I think. And sometimes it'll be the government, someone from the government, or someone from a disability platform, like some kind of enabling platform from employers or something like that. Not a lot of it was in education, and that was incredible. That's the power of the internet as well. Everything is accessible. So we just partnered with DHL, promised 3-day delivery, and literally delivered to the world.
Oh, that's amazing. So because of the uniqueness of it's you can use foreign languages. So that makes it very globally available. Yeah. That's great. And let's any interesting case studies you want to share about this one on the glove?
Tons. So especially with the teenagers, they are the ones with the highest levels of frustration because independence usually kicks in your teenage life. Or a time in your life when you want to be independent from your family or your parents or your ideas or whatever, but also to communicate independently your own thoughts and ideas. And so All of a sudden, the glove became very popular with the teenagers, not to say what they need, but really just to fool around and to have fun and be themselves. And so they started picking up very quickly their own things, or they did shortcuts to say different things and did different gestures that no one knew what they were. And then the schools called me and said, is there any way to control this? I'm like, you wanted to give them a voice. What do you think a 16-year-old guy wants to say? That's his voice. He could say whatever he wants. You implement your rules in school or at home the way you do with everyone else. I love that. And, when I asked one of the students in one of my follow-ups, like, what was the best thing about using this tech? And he said, I can finally now just get what I want without asking someone to do it for me. And the haircut was an example. He's like, finally, I can get the haircut that I want, not what my mom tells the barber. Some of the families didn't let the kids go out on their own because they were worried they wouldn't find their way home. So the first thing they programmed was their address, their bus stop, their door number, and their postcode, so that even if anyone gets lost, they could just ask anyone. That's already programmed, and with one sign, they can ask someone for help to get them home. So it's really independence of communication, but also of just being free and allowed to do things that they otherwise couldn't have. I think the one thing that brought me to tears really was I had to do 100 days in 5 schools. So a total of 100 days in 5 schools, working with the students to personalize the designs of the gloves the way they want. They wanted Spider-Man gloves or Peppa Pig gloves or whatever. It was trying to get them to warm up to something that could be a little bit scary in the beginning. And on the last day, one of the students came and she was really trying to teach the glove something new, and I don't know what it was. And it was for me. It was to thank me for giving her a voice. And she said, for the first time ever, I was able to communicate with my mother because she didn't speak sign language. So no amount of power would have stopped my tears, even though I'm not an emotional person and I really have good control. But yeah, that was amazing. And she was like 4 years old. And she was able to think about how can she tell me, thank you for giving me a voice, and I could finally talk to my mom. Now, as I said, these are the things that put things in perspective and remind me why I do all of the sleepless nights and why am I resolving all of these tech challenges and material challenges and cost challenges and IT challenges. It comes
Yes.
together in one little thing. And
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, that's why I'm doing this.
So quite transformational. Talk to me, what's next for this particular product and service?
Yeah, so
journey.
BrightSign is interesting because while I lost myself in the tech, the business had to keep going, right? And as long as I was framing it as a hardware thing, it was very, very difficult to get it off the ground because hardware is a sinkhole for money because the risks are very high and the returns are very low, especially in assistive technology, where already you're catering to a very niche market. So we had to switch to being a software-based company and really focus on the AI bit, which is learning the science from the users. And so we outsourced the development of the hardware, which is the gloves. It was our design, but we sent it out to be manufactured with another company that is already a pioneer in data gloves. But they use it a lot more for gaming and motion capture. And focused really on developing the machine learning aspect. And that was the bit we were actually able to patent. It's called one-shot learning, which means you show the glove an example one time and it will learn it. Whereas in AI, you really have to show the system thousands of samples to learn. And that was the novel bit. When did it come back to bite me? Is when these guys said, sorry, we can't make gloves for you anymore.
Right.
And that was like, okay, maybe now is the time to go back and think about hardware development in general and what do we need to do.
How long ago was this in their journey? Sorry.
That was when
quite
we
recent.
were getting all of our gloves from them. And we were really focusing on the back end of things, developing the app, developing the languages, developing the different controls. All of that is software, and we could totally do it here. Anyway, they just said, sorry, I think they were acquired by another company. And the new company felt like, why are we making gloves for other people? We should only be making gloves for us. And so I understood. And that put us in a corner. And we're like, okay, what are we going to do? So we then decided to request funding to set up our own manufacturing lab in the UK. That's how Fiddly started, right? We had already proved the tech worked. We already working with schools and councils and whatever. And always we had to say is we now need to set up our own manufacturing facility to do this locally in the UK. So we have full control over our supply chain. And at the same time, keep producing those gloves that now placed hundreds of students in mainstream classrooms. We allowed the education to become integrated because we had a very good proof of our tech, the government said, here, set up your own manufacturing facility. And so when we were able to set up our own manufacturing facility, number one, the glove cost went down by a factor of 4. So we were then able to sell it the quarter of a price from 2,000 to 500 because we have full control over the whole thing. It also meant we have a factory and we have a lab. So what else can we do with this lab? That's how Fiddly came about. It is a lab that does the same thing to other startups that it did for us with BrightSign. It is to develop hardware startups, prototypes for people who are just starting and have a concept or an idea and don't know whether it's going to work or not and need someone to do 1 or 2 units before they go to mass production. And just like it solved the problem for us, we wanted to also solve that problem to other startups and founders and anyone with a really nice idea. Yeah, we've been running Fiddly for 2 years and we just hit the 40 project mark.
Oh, wow.
Our
Congratulations on
2-year
that.
anniversary is coming up end of August, actually. Not quite 2 years.
I love it. Yeah, great stuff. If I jump into Fiddly, because Fiddly has its own kind of interesting stories around it. Talk to me about, and from, a creator, innovator, student to entrepreneur. What was that mind shift? And just talk me through that process, right? So I get the product part of it. That's kind of your baby and all. Talk to me about what's the mindset.
That doesn't end. I am very much still learning. I'll be a student forever when it comes to entrepreneurship. Working as an academic to develop anything, whether it's a piece of tech. In this case, there was a lot of factors. There was the software side of things, the hardware side of things, and the product side of things. From a research perspective, you're always building something and then testing it and then measuring it and then plugging that into the measure test cycle forever, right? And you keep learning forever. And then at some point you have to say, that's it. I did enough, I've documented enough studies. I can now put this in writing, write it up into a thesis, do my viva, get my PhD. I'm done. That's in the academic world. Someone else will pick it up after you and will do more studies on your findings. In the entrepreneurship world, you're dealing with the market and the users and the people who are actually using your research or your tech or your product. And so that doesn't end, right? You put the product out there and someone will come and say, but I can't bend my hand in that way. So you then have to customize the sensitivity of the sensors. And then someone else will be like, but my hand shakes. And so that means that all of the signs there's a lot of noise in the sensors and the feedback. And so you then have to go back and reflect that and say, okay, maybe we can have a calibration mode. When someone gets the glove in the beginning, they have to customize it to their own conditions. And then someone says, do you have Portuguese? I'm like, yes, I do. But then he's like, no, I want Brazilian Portuguese, not regular Portuguese. So you then have to go and check it. And then we went into the whole accents. And even within the UK, everyone wants their accent and everyone wants their specific way of saying things. And that's when we said, okay, there's 2 ways to do this. Either we allow them to record audio clips for all of the signs, which means there's always going to have to be someone with them to record those audio clips for all of the signs. Some people love that because someone wants her mother's voice because she doesn't have a voice. So if she did, it will be very close to her mom. So that was very popular. And then we actually partnered with a speech synthesizer research group. And what they did is they'll send you a script to read for 20 minutes, and then they can generate a speech, kind of an AI voice, but it's your voice, and it can literally say anything. It's very scary because I did it, and now it literally can say anything, and it sounds exactly like me. And that's just, what can I say? That is one thing. And then someone else will be like, but I'm moving gloves because this is now small. I want to move to a bigger one. Can I migrate my gesture library to the new glove? And so, okay, now we have to save the libraries, back them up, allow you to download them on a different device. Then some schools will say, we're actually keeping the gloves, not the students. So we want multiple users per device. Can you do user accounts? Can you brand them with our colors? And all of these things just keep coming. It's forever. It's not ending. You can't say, oh, the product is done, I can move on to the next thing. In the real world, that doesn't happen. Also, as a researcher, I'm on my own. I have full freedom to do whatever I want, non-disputed, right? Whereas in the real world, I have a real team, right? And the members of the team are people I chose to complement my skills. And I hire to my weakness. So whatever I'm not good at, I'll find someone who is amazing at it and I'll bring them onto the team. So I could focus on what I'm really good at and I enjoy and I can do amazing things. And the things I'm not amazing at, someone else will do it. So when someone in accounting comes and says, actually, your pricing is not getting us any profit, I'll be like, but I want people to have it free. Okay, so where's the business? How will the business survive if I want it to be free? But when my business manager comes and says, Hadeel, this is ridiculous. You can't keep selling the gloves at these prices. We really have to make a margin. And I said, you know, this was my condition from day one when I brought you in as a business manager. I said the gloves have to be free. You have to figure out how to make the business thrive. And then we worked out a way and a pricing scheme to basically put ourselves in the brackets of all of the benefits so that everyone that needs it can get it through some kind of disability scheme. Either it's the allowance, I think it's called reasonable adjustments. They can request it from their employer as part of their reasonable adjustment allowance, or it can be issued to them by their school, or they can have it as a disability benefit. We made sure that it can be provided. And we're making those deals with every government we're able to do. And then we got FCA approved for financing 2 years interest free, which means for £20, you can have the glove and use it today and just keep paying £20 every month and interest free, zero margin, just to allow anyone to get it, even if they don't have access to any kind of scheme. So I feel like I don't have the same freedom I had as an academic, but the rewards are incredible because people are using it and I'm learning from that. And the more they use it, the more I'm developing it for their needs and other needs. And that just means that I'm growing with it as well. I'm growing with the idea and with the business. It's just that it's more of a reality check, right? And then eventually, when it gets too big, you start doing a lot more managing than designing. And that's the bit I don't.
Okay. So a couple of points that I wanted to talk to you about. So your business manager is saying we have to make a margin. You've got this, very nice value that you want to give it free at the lowest price possible. So you've got tapped with FCA. What's the kind of business? Is this a profitable center in terms of now it's got charity status? It's a not for profit. Which one is it?
It's not charitable at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not for profit.
Okay.
I don't really know even how that's done.
All
I just know that I insisted on it and got it. Someone somewhere is shouldering the cost. It could be that they have a charitable arm and they're using it to write off those profits for sure.
Okay. And the other important point is you said, when you moved to an entrepreneur, I would say identity, you then said, I have weaknesses. And so I went ahead and hired people who are much better and smarter than me. How did you actually go about identifying those people? I think that's very important because entrepreneurs listening in, it's one of the biggest challenges they have.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult to find someone to share your vision and deliver your dream that wasn't with you right from the beginning. And so I only started adding to my team after I already had a product. So to keep them invested and at the same time keep them on board was very difficult. So I went through 2 business partners until I found the right one. So my current business partner is the 3rd business partner I'm with, even though the previous business partners shared my vision. They just didn't share the approach or the implementation plan that I had in mind. And so it wasn't easy and it wasn't a success from the first time and it wasn't magical and I didn't know what I was doing. It just felt like, oh, you're working on the same idea. Well, I'm working on the same idea. Let's not compete. Let's collaborate. On the outside, it looks amazing, right? But once you start working together, things start really becoming clear when you don't really share the same vision. The first time around, it did break apart because of the pricing the glove on the market and that there's no competition, which means we can price it at anything we want. Where here I am saying, but I want it for free. You cannot compromise, right? You can't compromise when someone says, but there's no competition. We can get away with anything. And I'm like, I don't care. I want it for free. That was a deal breaker.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Second time around, there was a lot of issues about IP, which is anything we develop that's new. There was always a struggle of who owns the IP. Right. And I didn't feel like that was the right thing because even though I'm the one who wrote the code and designed all of the technology, I gave the IP to BrightSign immediately. Like I'm there as an inventor, but the owner is BrightSign because you have to give value to the company. Yes. And I did that myself and I expected anyone on my team who will work on any IP related to the product, it is owned by the company because the company is funding it. But that didn't work. Second time around, I didn't make the same. Third time around, I didn't make the same mistake. I didn't actually offer the partnership from the beginning. I invited my now business partner to the team as a team member.
Right.
In my head, I'm thinking potentially this could actually be something. I knew they weren't very happy in their current job and they wanted to do something on their own. They wanted to set up their own business. And he already had 2 other startups. One was very, very successful. The other one he was wrapping up because it was a one-time thing. They delivered it. They wanted. So he had a lot more experience than me in startups and running a business. And I had a lot more experience in the tech. And I thought, okay, that's why we could be a good fit, because he can manage all of the business-related decisions with pricing, financial projections, strategic planning, and all the things I really don't enjoy. I have to do them. I just don't enjoy them. He can do the negotiations because I'm really not a good negotiator at all. As you said, it's my baby. I'm very weak when it comes to my tech, whereas he's got a lot more impartial vision when it comes to what's right, what's wrong, what will work, what won't work, and had the ability to let me get away with what I want, but would always frame it in the right way. I think 4 months in, I offered him to jump ship and just quit his job and join me. And then 6 months in, I transferred some shares to him. And then after 2 years, I transferred enough shares to make him an equal partner in the business. So I did it very slowly, testing because conflict is really where things really show. So fundraising can be a very, very challenging time for a business. And we did the first round together. And I would say he got us double the amount of money for half the valuation, something I could never have done. Never. And he's the one that actually made the decision to switch from hardware to software and focus on something that will not cost us any money and will not scare the investors. Doesn't have any risk. And that was my PhD anyway. It was in machine learning. So I already had the qualification. And I'd say that, yeah. And obviously when I wanted to do Fiddly, the first person I spoke to was him and said, hey, we've been together for 7 years doing this. It's, grew triple in size. And I feel like we are a really good team with tech and business. Can we do Fiddly? But this time I want you to be the CEO because I want to stay in the tech world. And he said yes. And that's probably a very difficult decision to make as a CEO, to offer CEO to someone else for another company. But in reality, I can't be CEO of 2 companies and expect both of them to succeed at the same time. It's not realistic.
Got it. That's amazing. And behind all this, what are kind of the top 3 values that have made you successful today?
Obviously, impact. I would say social impact is at the heart of everything I do. I always think about how is what I'm doing or solving problems for people, how is that impacting their life? And if it's not positive and if it's not meaningful, I don't do it, which is why I quit teaching. The minute I felt like I'm no longer making a difference and adding value, it means my time can be then dedicated to something else to make someone else live a better life. So for me, definitely quality of life and social impact. I'd say believing in my vision or believing in my gut and seeing it through, because if it was easy, anyone would have done it, right? So failing forward is basically the thing that kept me going, because you're always going to fail. You're always going to learn from your mistakes, but you just have to keep going. And I say that to everyone that joins the team, that every time you're going to develop a new piece of tech or an innovative idea, it will always, always not work the first time. Don't feel disheartened. Don't feel disappointed. Totally fine. Just fail quickly so that we can quickly recover, and also fall forward, keep going, fall forward, keep going. The last thing would be that really I feel like took me to another level is the ability to listen to my clients, listen to the users I'm designing technology for, listen to their needs, because the people I was working with all the time actually couldn't talk. You know how much you need to develop listening skills with a lot of groups that actually do not talk, how you have to try to understand when they communicate. And I don't speak sign language and I don't understand it. And so to develop that skill and the patience to be able to, a meeting that is supposed to be half an hour turns out to be 2 to 3 hours. Easily.
Yes, of course.
So you really, really have to be very patient. And if it's important, then I will stay and I will listen and I want to know. So probably listening, I would say that really, really helped me deliver the impact that I've always dreamed of.
Wow. So that's great. So your top 3 values are social impact and basically that the value you're giving. Definitely fail forward, fail fast from what I've heard, and listening. That's an amazing, those are amazing 3 things. When you talk about fail forward, fail fast, because that's very key, right? As the founder, the owner, you've got a budget, you've got to pay staff, but you're then creating that safe space and environment for your team to actually, move forward. Not many organizations, you're in the corporate world before, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you had to learn, or is that something it just came as part of your profession, your teaching background and all? What was that? Because that's quite an important value
Uh,
to have.
okay, because I had such a difficult time with my failures. I'm used to being top of my class, top of my everything. I was the best performer in the team. I was always top of my class in all of the courses. That's what I'm used to. But when I fail, it hit really, really, really hard. It's hard for me to accept failure and to understand it, even to cope with it and to recover from it. And when I started BrightSign, it was failure, 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 success, failure, literally 3 steps backwards, 1 forward, and so forth. And it was very difficult for me to accept it. And I only understood that this was actually part of the process when I made it through and it worked and it was successful. And I saw it in the people's hands and they're using it. And I was then like, why didn't I enjoy this ride? Why didn't I enjoy the journey of development? I was so sucked in and upset of every time things didn't work. And so, because we're a startup and we're in an innovation lab, it was very important for me to give every person in the team their role. So if you work in a big company, you get a very small role and a very small impact on the things they're doing. But in a very small team, like a startup team, you have a role, but that is a very big role and your work has huge impact. And especially with electronics, it's very common to fry a chip or explode a battery or whatever. Some mistakes are expensive, some aren't. And so right from the beginning, I always invested in attitude, not in skill, because I can teach them the skills I need. And every project is its own thing. It's a new idea that no one has experience in, and we're all learning on the job. So as long as you have the right attitude to learning, doesn't matter what your skills are, because they're irrelevant when you get a project that you've never worked on before, which is every project we get. So I hire a lot of people with no qualifications, actually. Like I have PhD holders like me, literally, and I have school dropouts as well. And we are exactly the same when it comes to our roles in every project, because it's really about your attitude towards learning and you accepting that you will be learning forever and that if you make a mistake, you recover very, very quickly. So we have a hat for the most expensive mistake, and that hops around, right?
Of course, yes, I've heard about that.
A very expensive mistake. They gain the hat and they walk around in the office with that hat until someone else makes the most expensive mistake. We obviously have a budget for mistakes. We have a budget for
Of
tech.
course.
We order our parts not just with 10 and 20% excess, sometimes double what we need, because we know that for sure the design, something will be wrong or something will short or something will fry. We just don't feel like that's a problem because we've got enough components to recover from it. And sometimes we don't, and we just have to wait for the next one.
Yeah, got it. Then let's jump on to Fiddly, right? So Fiddly was born basically, the whole glove manufacturing one wanted to be based in-house, but it's been through a really interesting journey since, I would say, August 23, if I've got the date right,
Yeah.
or the month right. Talk to me about that part. So where has Fiddly, we'll not talk about the glove component or the glove product. Talk to me about what else is happening in Fiddly and what's
Yeah.
so transformational and exciting about it.
The nice thing about Fiddly is working with other startups. I was working with me and my startup for 7 years. And now all of a sudden, every week, I meet 2 or 3 new startups with new ideas that are transforming different sectors. And it can be sports or medical or entertainment. Our very first project actually was before we ever incorporated. It was one of my friends, and I gave a talk at a conference. I think it was at UCL. And she was the one giving the talk after me, talking about her tech, but it was still a conceptual idea, not a physical one. And she came and said, "Can you actually make this for me?" And I'm like, okay, let me see how we can do it. And she came over, we did the meeting, and she walked away with a patentable idea on a piece of paper that we did in a restaurant, typical movie style, but true story. And that was in Femtech. I don't know if I'm really allowed to talk about hers because she's patenting it now, but it was a Femtech idea, literally half an hour of coffee. She walked away with an idea. Then she raised funding. Then she came back and said, "I now have the money for you guys to do this for me. Can you make it for me?" And that was the very first project I worked on without even Fiddly being a company. Once we just put a placeholder on the website, we then started getting a lot more of the same, which is teams or startups working on ideas, have funding, but don't know how to make it. And we always say we can promise you that we will try our best to deliver your idea, but it might not look like what you think.
Right.
In the sports world, it's really nice because it means that we get to test all of the fun things here in our own offices.
Yeah, tell us more about that. Tell us about the fun part of the sports.
The fun part. Sports, we have something with horses and horse arenas where we had to map arenas and make an application for trainers to allow riders to do different routines. It was very nice because we had to go out to a lot of beautiful horse arenas and test with real horses. And that was really, really nice when the weather was good. It was really not when the weather wasn't good because we still had to do it. Also meant that all of our tech was airtight, waterproof, all of that. You wouldn't actually be able to test it unless the weather was really not great. With kids, we did a football mat, which is like a mat with a lot of LED strips and LED patterns where kids who are training with their coach would like stand in the middle of the mat and then kick the ball in different directions in the direction of the LED light so that they can either score well, score not very well, and they keep upgrading their skills in their parameter of 1 meter by 1 meter, which sometimes if the space doesn't allow it, or again, if the weather is not great, they can train at home or in a studio. We also have, for some reason, this is the third kickbox project we get since we last spoke. And it's all about how can they upgrade the kickboxing experience because you burn a lot more calories standing in your place doing kickboxing than you do if you go and run a mile, for example. And people are really, really loving that because not everyone has time. And again, the weather, right? And so all of the technology around kickboxing and feedback from your hands or your legs, and how can we map that feedback into something visual to allow the people to see how they're performing, how hard they're punching, or if the pattern is right, or if they're following the music. And so there's light, music, and feedback. And sometimes it's bands, sometimes it's cameras, sometimes it's trackers. And all of that gives you, the person who's doing the sport, a lot more of an immersive experience into what you're doing, which is supposed to be making it more enjoyable, but also motivating you when you see that you're doing very, very well. We have all of that around here in the lab, and we're playing with it most of the time because that's how we're testing tech. And that's the fun part when it's not too loud or when people are not having too much fun.
Well, okay, so that's a fun place to work with. And so you're the CEO of this company now, and not BrightSign.
I'm the CEO of BrightSign, but the CTO of Fiddly.
That's the CTO of Fiddly. Okay, fair enough. And what does that mean? So talk to me about any startup, listening in. They have the funding, or they don't have the funding. Also, let's talk about that part. They don't have the funding, but they got a creative idea. They know it's going to work because they've seen it in some shape or form. Talk to me about that part of it. How do you all help?
So that actually did happen. We had some startups that came to us with incredible ideas. We're not able to raise funding for it. And usually hardware, that's the case. I know because I was there. Raising money for hardware is very difficult because the risks are very, very high. And the upfront cost has no guarantees of actually will that tech work or not. If it's a startup that's working on an idea that we believe is fantastic and revolutionary, we would actually do the prototypes for them for equity. And so we'll be like, okay, we'll be your partners. So when you succeed, we will, be together, and then we can help bring you to market, refine the product, and actually do the mass production as well, so that we're partners for life, not just for the first phase of the development. You could say that it's kind of like an accelerator arm for Fiddly that we only started doing in the last 6 months. We have 3 different products that we invested in and we're backing at the moment, and they're completely out of our world. Nothing we've worked on before, ever. But we just believe that it has huge potential. We also invest in the team, not just the idea. The team are promising, they're committed, they know what they're doing. They're also open to ideas and being flexible, because I could say that to myself, not just to others. Is how I imagined my tech will be and how it turned out being is very different. And so some people are fixated on what they think their product will look like, and they're their own enemies, really. They're stopping the innovation from happening with their own product. And so, you invest in the team, you invest in an idea, and we totally don't care about the money. We care about pushing innovation forward, and we're very happy to be partners with those kind of ideas.
Got it. And how easy, what's the kind of selection process, triage process you have with such kind of, I'm pretty sure you're getting a flood of such inquiries. How do you actually decide which one you?
Our icebreaker for every tech meeting is going through all of the incoming ideas to be able to shortlist which are the ones that we feel are the best fit for our portfolio and who are we willing to back without them putting any funding forward. So with some startups, we actually help them with the first prototype so that they go and raise funding. So they use it to raise funding, and then they come back to us and they can pay us later. Or the more common style that we do is we break up the installments with deliverables. So we will always give them something right at the beginning at 10% of the cost to take away and do something with it. It can be the industrial drawings to go and file a patent, or it can be proof of concept schematics to go and show it to an investor, or it can be a toy look like, work like, again, to go and raise funding or to speak to investors or to test in the market. We'll always give them something in the beginning that they only have to put 10 or 20% forward for, so that they can go raise funding, then come back and we finish that process with them. I would say with 2 companies, they fully launched and then came back with orders of 200 units plus, because after they launched, people then were interested and they came back to us, and actually we are now making kits for them in the hundreds, which is, again, one more step before mass production, which is the thousands, because that's when we can lock in a supply chain for you. But we don't have the capacity to do thousands yet.
Yes. Okay. Love it. When you look at Fiddly today, right, what's your kind of 5-year vision of it? Where do you see it? Is it UK, global? Just talk to me about this part.
Yeah, the technology is already global. Fiddly is global. We are developing tech for people all over the world, because a lot of it really doesn't require people to be here in person. And we do ship out the technology via DHL unless there is some kind of clearance issue, because some components require higher level of clearances where the client actually has to fly in to take it. And one of the clients, even though he flew in to take it, he wasn't allowed on the plane on his way back, which we could have told him, and we did. Anyway, we have people from the States, from Australia, all over Europe, really. Like when I say 40 projects, only 3 are in London. The rest are either in the UK, mostly EU, but some in America. Americans love throwing money at ideas, whether it will work or not. And because they are really good with risk, they really get returns, because they don't care how it works. They just want it to work. And they have no idea of giving you complete creative freedom at, getting it right. I think it's so excited over the tiniest little thing. We do have a lot of Americans, actually, because they do most of their prototyping in China. And the whole language barrier and 3-week milestones for every little thing. We've solved that problem for them because they can communicate with us and we can send them things very, very quickly. Whereas here in Europe, we have a lot, and like in the UK and Europe, we have a lot of prototyping labs, but they're either very, very expensive, or they also outsource to China. So we still have the very long waiting times.
Got it. I got it. And, I asked you about your team last. I mean, when you're looking to take on the 40 projects, you have enough of kind of innovators under your belt. What is the thing that you look at where you all are funding it in straight up without them having any funding? What is the kind of values or mindset or either anything around that aspect that you can share that okay, I need this innovator needs to have this thing before Fiddly can take them on? Just help me understand.
100% the synergy within the team. But the team of founders is very important. How they work together, the synergy within the team, because again, developing tech for someone, their attitude and mindset towards how that tech will end up, and it will not work the first time or the second time or the third time. There'll be a lot of iterations, a lot of changes, and they first have to be on good terms together before we put them under the test of, okay, we have to make decisions. What are we compromising on? Material, cost, feel, tech, performance. You always have to have that discussion at some point, right? And so if the team is not solid, even if the tech is amazing, it won't work. It just won't work. Yeah. And however, we have a lot of sole founders. Again, like one of the teams we invested in, he is a sole founder, actually. It's just that the tech is a lot bigger than him and has a lot more potential than what he could see himself. And so we are acting as his CTO now, because he's the CEO. And our offer to him is, let Fiddly be your CTO. You're the CEO. We'll go into all of your fundraising meetings for you. We will come with you in all of the exhibitions. We will act as your partner properly. And it worked because we kind of delivered the tech, obviously, but also positioned it in different industries that he wasn't even thinking of. So we're a lot more of a strategic partner, not just a tech partner with that one. I think The idea is very important, the tech is important, but the mindset of the team is actually the most important.
Got it. And that's an important point out there, right? Which you mentioned. So you have, it's like you have a hairstylist very good at, styling everyone's hair, but running a business and create is a different world, right? So you have all the verticals of the business, and do you actually offer the other part of it? Let's say if it's a solopreneur, coming in, do you offer the full kind of team behind it?
Oh, we already do that. We do that without charging. Every client of ours gets the business direction without charging, even when we look at pricing their tech, because we have to develop the very first prototype with production and commercialization in mind. And the one prototype that you're going to walk away with will be identical to your 1,000 units later. So designing a mass producible product right from the beginning for one unit is unheard of. No one does that. So we have to have the discussion of how much do you want it to cost to make? How much do you want to sell it for? What is your target market? Who are you actually approaching about this? And I would say most of the time, we make a lot of positioning decisions for them, like like the horses arena thing. It was supposed to be for riders. Now we're making a different version for trainers. And we said right from the beginning, don't charge for the kits. Make the kits free and charge for the app and the subscription. Whereas, when you're developing a hardware product, you think that's how you're going to make your money. And we made that mistake as well. So we try to bring our experience and guidance to every project, and we always do the business guidance completely free because their success is our success. And we have the same goal, which is putting that technology out there. So if it's adopted and it's successful, we're going to gain because you're going to come back and say, okay, now I want 200.
Got it. Really great. And now let's come back to yourself. So, Adeel, who's when everything seems to be going wrong, who do you lean on to the most?
Oh, wow. God, definitely. I'm not very religious, but I am very grounded.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, I would say I have very solid support system at home.
Okay.
Even from my kids. My kids are as crazy and grounded as I am. We're all very chaotic in our ideas, but we always see them through, not in the most classical way. But I share everything with them, and they're all adults now. So I'm able to just say, I fucked up. Help. What can I do today? And that's fine because they do the same thing. But yeah, I would say that I have very, very strong faith, and it's invisible and no one sees it. And I never talk about it, but that's what keeps me grounded. And there is a saying is the most rewarded human beings are the most useful to others. And that's what I have in front of my desk every day, is that I want to be the most useful human being by making the most impact and giving people, a better life. And it's a simple thing. Everyone has to have something to keep them moving, and that's what keeps me moving. And it does come from my faith. But really, I don't lean on people because it's not fair to them, because I have a very, very heavy burden. Sometimes the burden is about running the business. Sometimes it's about finding the right office space for our growing team. Sometimes it's about covering all, the machines that are coming next week from China, and I don't know where I'm going to put them or pay for them. There's a lot of things that really I shouldn't burden anyone with because I made those decisions and I need to figure out how to do them. I can discuss them, but I wouldn't lean on anyone.
Okay, that's great. And who's part of your inner circle?
My husband.
And at work? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll have a work husband equivalent to.
Oh, my work husband is also my husband because this is my life, right? My inner circle is definitely my kids, 100%. As I said, they're all adults now, all doing their own things with their studies or their degrees or their jobs. All of them have something on the side that they're doing for themselves. And it's exciting to see them grow. Yeah, I don't really have an inner circle in that way.
Okay, got it. And you mentioned an important point, right? I think also during the pre-call, you'll had to move your building or your unit. So talk to me about that and what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. So you mean the office, right?
Office, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So well, obviously, when we decided to have a physical office, a proper one, we chose Canary Wharf because it's very easy to come to. It was very impressive for our clients, and a very busy area, and everyone was very happy. But when we had to set up a manufacturing facility, if Canary Wharf, it's all towers with glass buildings, and so all of that glass is fixed glass, and a lot of our lab equipment need ventilation. And so we couldn't then set up a manufacturing facility where we had our offices. So we chose a different location for the lab that was still in Canary Wharf, but a fair distance from the corporate office. So that was like a 20-minute walk. It's a beautiful walk around the docks with a lot of restaurants coffee shops, but it just meant that we had the lab operating not in the same location as the office. And we spent a lot of time moving between them, sometimes doing office days and lab days. And then eventually we just had to make the decision of moving from different offices that were run by, other people to getting our own building and just converting it in the way we want. So we rented a independent building, freestanding building, for 10 years. So we could say that we kind of own it because we had to pay stamp duty on it. And it had its own loading bay, its own, deliveries dock, and which means because we get a lot of deliveries for components and chemicals and lab equipment. And so booking a loading bay every time in Canary Wharf was an absolute nightmare because it's a very busy area, right? And everyone wants that. But when it's our building, then we have full control. And it meant that we can dedicate an entire floor for the lab and then an entire floor for office space and then another dedicated space as a breakout space where we have arcade machines, all of the toys I say, but like the projects that we're playing with and testing with, they can be as loud as they want there. There's a full kitchen loaded with snacks and drinks and ice cream and Tim's machine and whatever they want. We also have the rooftop for whether we want to do our own, barbecue lunches that we do at the end of each month, weather permitting. A lot of our staff actually go up in the roof and just spend the day working there with their laptop. They can put music there and do whatever they want. So it's a lot more space for my growing team. It means I have full control over the whole space. It means also I can jump between the lab and my office at any point. And I can make it the way I want, which is the best thing. Also, the other side of things that you really have to deal with everything yourself, like cleaners, equipment, there's simple things that you do at home you now have to also do for the office when it was completely taken care of when you're in a managed office. Everything has pros and cons, but this is part of growing, right?
Correct.
As you grow, you need more space and you have to have more control over your space.
Got it. And, been speaking to you, how important is your personal brand for yourself and for the company?
See, with BrightSign, I was the brand. Everyone knew BrightSign. My name, if you just type my name on Google, immediately it will say Hadeel Ayoub BrightSign. BrightSign was me and I was BrightSign. And I couldn't detach myself from the brand at all because for a very long time, the brand didn't exist. Only I was there to make it work and take it out and talk about it and pitch it to competitions or, did a lot of exhibitions. And it was very, very much attached to me. So with Fiddly, I decided to do the exact opposite. And if you type Fiddly, my name will never come up. I'm not on the website. I'm not on the LinkedIn. I'm not on anywhere because I wanted it to be detached from me as a person and have a life as its own and can run itself and take care of itself, whether I'm there or not. Because with BrightSign, if I wasn't there, nothing would work. When they ask us to come and present at a conference or at an exhibition, if I say I can't come, but someone from my team will come, they immediately withdraw the invitation. When it comes to BrightSign, because is my vision. And I talk about it in a way no one else can, right? Because I was part of every step of it. Whereas with Fiddly, it's other people's dreams, it's other startups' vision. So it doesn't really have to be attached to me as a person. Also, 15 different people working on Fiddly projects. So it's not me anymore. And it's healthier that way, I think. I just had my first holiday in, what can I say, 3 years?
Wow.
Because
Okay.
I finally have a team that can take it and take care of everything, even when I'm not here. Literally, the first holiday I have in 3 years was just last week.
Amazing. Yeah. And I get the personal branding. How important is a personal brand for the innovators, the creators coming to you?
I think it's very important. A lot of them have something they're working on that is based on a personal struggle or challenge or even their careers. If a dentist will always come and say, but I want to design a self-flossing system for my patients because I struggle with that problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
A dog owner will say, this thing's been bothering me. I'm now retired. I have a small pot of money. I want to develop this tech for dogs. So it's either related to something you're facing yourself or something that will make your career better and everyone else that works in that field. They're always, always, always attached to their ideas and it's always relevant to what they see or do on a daily basis. So they cannot detach themselves from it. And a lot of them don't want to. They don't want to detach themselves. So I think personal branding is very important for new ideas, I'd say.
Okay. And what is it? What's one piece of advice, or maybe two or three, that you would give for startup owners, founders coming, right, and this journey, just beginning? So, what would you kind of tell them right now? If they're listening.
Definitely. It'll sound very cliche, but I'd say believe in your vision and keep going. When I first had the idea for BrightSign, even as a student at university, my tutor said, this has never been done. Like, don't even try. Don't waste your time. What you're proposing, the one-shot learning thing. They just told me this has never been done. Well, yes, that's why I have a patent now, because it's never been done. So if I listened, I would have immediately changed directions and not even approached it. Yes, it was difficult, but I did make it happen, and now it's done, right? And so just believe in your idea, believe in your vision. When I said I'm going to make the glove for free, everyone thought I was absolutely crazy. Well, guess what? I don't have a single user of the glove that paid for it from their pocket. Not one. Someone paid for it, but not them. So I still got what I want. So even if your idea is crazy, unheard of, no one's done it, whatever you hear or say, just block it and keep going and fail forward, like I tell myself and my team, and really try to enjoy the journey, because I didn't, and I feel bad that I didn't, because I made it, but I didn't enjoy the journey. And it can be a very long journey and very challenging. If I had a partner at that time, I think it would have been easier, but because it was an academic thing at the beginning, I couldn't have a partner. But now with Fiddly, because I have a partner, things are a lot easier and smoother, even though it's much more difficult and it's a much bigger company with a much bigger team. But because I have someone with me, it makes it so much easier and nice.
So what's kind of one book you would recommend every startup founder to read?
So that's the thing. I read, but I don't read in anything related to work,
All
because
right.
my reading is the only quality time I have for myself. I like to read a lot in history, because I like to know how things happened. A book that I really, really like, and it really does document the whole, it takes 100 years to build something. I don't have 100 years to build something, but I read the book. It's Pillars of the Earth for Ken Follett, and it's basically documenting building a cathedral over 3 generations, and it took 100 years to build that cathedral. And it walks you through the very beginnings of the architecture world and how you had to set up structures all the way to the very end in modern times of how that looks like. And it's a story of perseverance. It's a story of dedication, commitment, even though the first generation didn't see it through, the second generation didn't see it, but then the third one did. And obviously all the politics and stuff around it, but it's just that bigger picture and how small we are, but we are moving a tiny little piece of a very big puzzle, and how everyone's doing their bit and taking you to the final stage. So even though it's not about business, but I can escape to another world, but still take away the values and implement it in my everyday life. Maybe it's a little bit philosophical, but I can't work for 12 hours a day. And then when I read about work, I think I'll die.
Okay, got it. Oh, how do you maintain your physical fitness and your mental fitness? You've got 2 companies, CEO, CTO. Talk to me about that, because that's very important for founders too.
Yeah, I would say time management. I learned that as a mother before anything. When I was a
Of
mother,
course.
having a full-time job and a mother and doing a PhD and a business at the same time. It's all about time management. You can do it all. Anyone can do it all. You just have to really manage your time and prioritize the things that are most important to you. So immediately my circle became smaller. My friends became very selective of who I spent my time with. I became very careful of how I did. Like, when I have time off, I have to do something really, really rewarding or really, really good for me. And it can just be sitting in the garden reading a book. It doesn't have to be something great. But because I work very, very hard, the time off has to be amazing for me to justify the time off that I'm taking. Just prioritize what's important to you, and it can be different to what's important to other people. I can drive 12 hours to have ice cream in Milan in that shop that I want because I want to. And I can also fly to have lunch in Frankfurt in the steakhouse that I love and come back. It's crazy, but I can do it because that's important to me and I can justify the time off, for example. So it's just different for different people. If you do it right, obviously don't listen to hate. Haters will hate.
Great. Okay. And before we wrap up, what's next for you on this journey of yours?
I don't know. When I was working on BrightSign, there's no way I would have known that I was going to have a lab and do this for other people. I honestly don't know. And that could be a good thing. I know that I want Fiddly to take its own path and do projects in different fields and actually do projects of our own that we already have on the roadmap to help other startups prototype faster and cheaper. So we're developing our own pick and place machine that makes computer chips faster and easier. That doesn't exist because we face that problem. For example, we're developing prototyping modules that we can plug in to make very quick prototypes and to see if it works or not. And so I really don't know. Every week there's a new idea, and that's the best thing. It's just being open to doing anything.
Got it. All right.
Yeah, I can't say that I've figured it out or that I know it all. I don't. but that's okay.
That's okay. Yes, perfect. Dr. Hadeel, great having you today. That's a wrap.
Thank
That's a
you
pause.
very much. Thanks a lot for having me.
You're welcome.